Next, Captain Dave Funk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Brad, for calling us today. And like all of the other congressional candidates, or now former candidates, I'll give a shout out also to my campaign staff. You learn a lot about a man's character when you're out on a campaign trail with him for 6 months. You get to see them when they're good, when they're happy in the morning, when they're tired, when they've had a tough day, when they've just left a donors meeting that didn't go the way they wanted it to go, or they left one that, with a much bigger check than they thought they would ever see. And two things I learned about Brad Zaun as we became friends over this 6-month period. One is that he is an incredible listener. He never fails to look people in the eye and listen to what they have to say and take it to heart and to pay attention. And the second is Brad's enthusiasm for not just the people of the 3rd District, but for American exceptionalism and for Iowa, and for representing the people he has represented, whether it was as a city councilman, whether it was as a mayor, or as a state senator. No one, if I've ever met in my life, will work harder than I've seen Brad Zaun work on this campaign, nor, or as I should say, as I saw him work in the state legislature. There were many times where he was one of the few voices that stood up in a wilderness of bad ideas and called people out. He is one of the few people that I recognize in Iowa who have the capability to go to Washington, D.C. and reject the abject failures of the policies not only of this administration, but the policies that this administration is emulating that Jimmy Carter gave us, with not only high unemployment, high inflation, high government spending, but literally an economic malaise, and we had a misery factor. And we need Brad in Washington to go out and stop this administration, this Congress, Speaker Pelosi, Majority Leader Reid, and Leonard Boswell from destroying this country's economy by overspending and sucking all of the capital out of it. Ronald Reagan started a revolution in 1980 with his election. Ronald Reagan in 1980 reversed the course in the direction of our government and shrank it over his 8 years as president. Brad and I were both young men, fresh out of college in 1980 when he was elected, 1980, 1981. I was a young Army officer. He had started his own business. And the both of us suffered through the tough economic times that were left over by the Carter administration. The adults, led by Ronald Reagan, had to fix. And I fully expect that he will go to Washington having lived through 25 years of prosperity that really started in 1982 and went until 2007 when the Democrats took over the House of Representatives and elected to choose to go back to those very bad policies that were brought about by Jimmy Carter, even Carter emulating what had happened in the Great Depression with an attack on business. We saw it just last night when the President of the United States, instead of standing with BP to solve the problem, simply said, "We will make them pay." Brad will hold people accountable when they make a mistake, but Brad will not throw them under the bus for his own political gain. We need to get Brad Zaun to Congress to reverse the direction of this country and restore our constitutional republic. Brad Zaun will work to stop the stupid spending in Washington. Brad Zaun has a history of winning elections, and no one will outwork him. Brad Zaun shares all of our concerns, not just of the people here, but of those other supporters in the room, of minimizing the strength and the size and the scope of the federal government and getting back to our 10th Amendment principles. Let's give our kids and our grandkids the chance to know the prosperity and the American exceptionalism that we as adults have known for the last 25 or 30 years. That's why I'm rallying behind a man that has become my friend, Brad Zaun, and we need him in Congress. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Jim Gibbons. Jim.
Thank you, Matt, and it's exciting to be here in this situation. You know, you learn a lot about people when you compete against them in this type of environment, and I learned a lot about Brad that I already knew. You know, a lot of things that come to mind. You know, I lived in Urbandale for a period of time, and I, spent some money at his hardware store, and he did a great job there. But when you compete against this man and you see that the job that he's done, the 20 years that he's been on the ballot here, just did a wonderful job here, and the people that follow this man, I mean, are much like, basically they have the same attitude. They're positive, they're respectful, and competing against Brad Zaun and coming in face to face with some of the people who supported him for a number of years, you just had that positive glow. I mean, you reflected that to your competition here, and you reflected that to the people that supported you, and it bore out here in the election results, particularly here in Polk County, where you did a fabulous job. And I'd like to just talk a little bit about the future here going forward. Dave has mentioned a little bit about the overall 30,000-foot view, but I think more so than anything that Brad possesses the personal qualities. When he shows up on your doorstep in this 3rd district here, you're going to be moved by his vision, about his empathy, about his the personal qualities it takes to be a congressman. I support him 100%. As I did the evening when I made my concession speech, I'm very excited about the prospects, but also to be up here with these other gentlemen. I knew that we would have a day like this. I didn't know, so when I got the phone call from you here, Brad, I was excited to be here, be a part of it here, and support you here going forward. But I knew we'd have a day like this because we all ran pretty solid, positive campaigns that reflected our values, and our conservative values they're found difficult and left untried. And I believe that the ideas the opposition has basically cannibalized the very people that are intended to help. We need to remember that going forward. We know that this is going to be a difficult race. We know that the opposition is going to be well funded. So we need to go ahead, as Pat's saying, step up and support you financially, and get other people to do the same as well, because Leonard Boswell will be well funded. But Brad has the personal qualities it takes to be able to go ahead and to beat well-funded opponents. And I know that from personal experience. But the bottom line is that he comes with a workmanlike attitude, and it's very excited to be here. All of us wish we'd probably be in your shoes, Brad, right? But the bottom line is that you won the day, and we congratulate you, and we wish you the best. And this is a nice little send-off here going forward, and I'm very happy and pleased and honored to be a part of it. Thank you.